Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Strength Game Podcast. I'm your host, Nick O'Brien, and this is episode number 89. The Strength Game is a weekly podcast dedicated to discussing all things physical culture with the coaches, athletes, iron enthusiasts, and experts deeply embedded in the strength game on both sides of the profession, both as coaches and as competitive athletes. I want to thank everyone who has liked, shared, commented. Please consider giving us a review, a 5-star rating. Leave us any guests you want to hear on the show, because that support allows us to continue to bring on more expert guests and highlight more individuals in the strength game, just like our guests today. Also want to thank our sponsors. Samson Equipment has been providing uncompromising quality for over 40 years. Samson products are long-lasting and made of the highest quality equipment on the market. Each project is built from the ground up with the ability to customize every need. The team at Samson focuses on developing the highest quality relationships with their customers, in addition to providing them unparalleled quality in every piece of equipment bearing the Samson name. Learn more about Samson's professional weight room solutions and the Samson standard at samsonequipment.com. Also, thanks our sponsor, Cerberus Strength. If you're in the market for the highest quality strength conditioning gear and equipment, be sure to check out cerberusstrength.com and use promo code strength_game to receive an extra 10% off your next order. And in this week's episode, I am joined by Grant Broggi. Grant is a Marine officer, owner of the Strength Co., starting strength coach, and a member of the starting strength seminar staff. Working in multiple other industries, initially, Broggi joined the Marine Corps in 2012 and commissioned as an artillery officer the following year. Over the course of his nearly 12-year career in the service, he has moved up the ranks and has held many different roles. While at the Citadel and early in his military career, he learned the benefits and importance of strength training. Grant took his own experience and principles from starting strength to first implement them as a young lieutenant with his platoon. Seeing the impact it made on his Marines, this eventually led to him training civilians in his home garage gym before officially opening the doors to the Strength Co. in 2017, which now has 2 locations in Southern California. Broggi found a need for equipment for his gyms. He set out to bring back quality manufacturing of Olympic plates to America, and in 2020, the Strength Co. did just that, producing the first line of high-quality, American-made iron plates under the Strength Co. brand. Today, the company has expanded to offer a range of training products, including plates, barbells, weight trees, collars, mats, and much more, all of which are 100% made in the USA. Alongside coaching in person and at the gym locations, Grant provides live online coaching as a starting strength coach. He has competed in powerlifting and is still an avid lifter and strength athlete. He boasts personal best lifts of a 500-pound squat, 265-pound press, 360-pound bench press, and a 560-pound deadlift. I'm excited to have him on the show today. So with all that said, let's get in the game with Grant Broggi. What's going on, everybody? Today I have Coach Grant Broggi and actually officer. So, sir, how you doing today?
Doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to get you on today. We talked a little bit before we got going, kind of similar backgrounds with ourselves. Obviously, like major in the Marine Corps, gym owner, strength coach. You're spinning a lot of plates. You're doing a lot of stuff at once. So I'm excited to have you on today, and we're going to dive into a little bit of everything, the Strength Co., everything you got going on coaching wise and military as well. But really want to kind of start from the inception. Like, how did you first really get started into training? What sports did you play growing up? And then what does your kind of training look like now?
Yeah, so funny because everyone asked me what sports I grew playing up. I actually didn't play any sports growing up. I wanted to, and my mother would slap me for saying I never played any because I played pickup games of football and baseball behind church and, all that kind of stuff. But I was a homeschooled kid, which was funny because I got made fun of all through the 90s for being homeschooled. And now it's like all the rage, right? But I was homeschooled. So sports teams weren't really available. Um, so my brothers and I went to the Y. That was like our thing. And actually, back there, somewhere on the bottom, I had the Arnold Schwarzenegger book. One of my older brothers got me that when I was probably like 13. So he was, 17, whatever. And we started going to the Y. And that's kind of when I started lifting. Um, I didn't know what I was doing, but I would read like, oh, you do chest flies or you do, tricep these things. But I followed that book. I tried to eat it. I was eating raw eggs as a teenager. I worked a lot, being homeschooled. I think that's helped me out a lot in life is, my dad encouraged us to work. So my brothers and I started businesses. We sold, pecans to gas stations, and we lived on a pecan farm. And we did all kind of stuff, cleaned windows, laid tile, and so that was kind of my background with that. And then I went to the Citadel, started playing rugby, played club rugby there for all 4 years, and that's kind of when I started lifting. Started with CrossFit, eventually kind of found starting strength while I was there. And that's kind of what ended me up being into. I mean, I'd say Schwarzenegger. I was definitely using barbells, but kind of where I am now, like, hey, the foundation of your training, whether you're a 60-year-old woman or a new Army. I didn't even get your rank. What are you?
Second lieutenant, Butterbar.
Second lieutenant, Butterbar, or a brand new officer. Man, you have such opportunity for development. No, for impact. Yeah, no. It's like, hey, strength training, strength's the foundation of life, right? So that's kind of where I ended up.
No, that's great. I've heard you speak a little bit before, kind of on how like Strength Co got started, like how you kind of started introducing barbell lifting and then some of the concepts and everything that like obviously Mark Ripito and everything from starting strength, like how you kind of really brought that to your Marines and like your platoon. But as you were kind of at the Citadel, I more so want to figure out like between that time before you actually commissioned and then like first getting started, before you actually introduced it to your Marines, like what was that transition like going from
Yeah.
club rugby, like kind of CrossFit, like barbell training and like just dabbling in everything? Like what made you choose starting strength and like the barbell strength training more so than all the other things that you were doing and like all the sports and everything? That what kind of transferred over to the military more than anything else?
Yeah. So I think at the Citadel, I wanted to be. I remember wanting to be bigger. I probably went in. I always say untrained. I'm a 180-pound guy. I went into the Citadel at 180. I think I was down to like 165 at the end of the freshman year or whatever. Quickly got back up to 180, and then my sophomore year, I had a friend, Wade Coleman, and he was like, "If you want to get big, you got to lift heavy and you got to drink milk." I had never heard of Mark Ripto at the time. I had seen Pumping Iron a million times, with Schwarzenegger talking about milk. But so I started lifting heavy at the time, but like not intelligently, benching, maybe doing behind the neck shoulder presses or something. But I knew it had to be heavy. And I definitely was consuming a lot of milk. And I was growing. I got up 200, a little bit bigger. I joined the rugby team. And my rugby coach, who was a Marine reserve officer at the time, was talking about CrossFit. This is like 2007. And I remember sitting, in my dorm room and watching at the barracks these, guys out in California doing CrossFit. We would follow that. And after 2 years at the Citadel, I went to DC and I worked there for a year. I interned up at the White House. And while I was there, I found this program called Strong Lifts. Actually, before I found Starting Strength, I found Strong Lifts 5x5. A lot of people find that first. And it was like, hey, do these big barbell lifts. And I was a member at a CrossFit gym. And at the time, they were teaching the low bar back squat and they were talking about Ripito because he was writing the CrossFit Journal. And so I was working out at a CrossFit gym, 3 days a week, typical 19, 20-year-old trying to do way too much. I'm at the CrossFit gym. Then I'm going to Gold's Gym 3 days a week, and I'm trying to run strong lifts. And, I had this pad, and I was adding weight. I wish I had, we didn't film everything like we do now. I wish I had videos. I have no idea how I was squatting back then, like if it was to depth or not. But I was running strong lifts. I was running CrossFit. But even during that summer, I remember finishing and going back to the Citadel and going back to my buddy and being like, we got to squat and deadlift too on top of bench. And that's when I really started to kind of like see some, not so much like more size, but like, hey, I'm deadlifting 315. Which now, as a strength coach for over a decade, like, okay, like I can take any male and give a deadlift 315. But if you're in college and you're looking around, everyone else is deadlifting, if they're even deadlifting 155, you're like, well, I'm kind of strong, right? And so that's kind of how I ended up in barbells. And then I went into Windler, and I would always go back to Ripito's CrossFit journals for form. But I didn't actually find the book until I think 2011 or early 12 was when I actually was like, oh, he put all this stuff in one place and like laid out a program.
Yeah, it's funny to think back that long and to realize that some of this information wasn't just readily available. You don't walk into any commercial gym or any like CrossFit box, or not like nowadays there's powerlifting, there's strongman, there's Olympic lifting, there's sports performance gyms like on every single corner. It wasn't the same then. And like to come across like all those journals, like when Elite FTS had all those like the Q&A and all the different like just the different blogs and stuff on there, which are just miles and miles long. Like that was all you had, or you ordered like a Muscle and Fitness magazine, or whatever the old bodybuilding magazines were. No one really, you couldn't just go on Amazon and like click to see who the best powerlifter at the time was and buy their like ebook, whatever it was.
Sure.
So that's crazy to kind of see that stuff.
Yeah, it really was a different time. And I remember watching, like I said, in 06, 07, watching those CrossFitters in the West Coast. And when I was in DC in 08, 09, Potomac CrossFit was the name of it. I don't even know if it's still in Potomac. And I was like, I can't believe there's a CrossFit gym on the East Coast. But yeah, and even going to the Gold's Gym, that Gold's Gym I went to, it might have had 2 squat racks. It's definitely lifting in the way that we do it now has definitely come a long way.
Yeah, definitely different. That was like the beginning of CrossFit too. So it's surprising to see it, but that's a testament to like of the areas on the West Coast and East Coast where like it was built around the foundation of a lot of the military. Obviously, like created by a SEAL, and those areas are huge for it around DC, Virginia Beach, like Outer Banks, like North Carolina, like SoCal.
Sure.
That's where you're getting all Navy, all Marine Corps, and then armies are in those pockets as well too. So that's crazy. I definitely too would not want to see some of my old videos. I've seen some. I have a few from like maybe 10 years ago at the most. I have my training notebooks from like way back, but the videos are, thank God they're grainy because they're awful to watch.
Hey, what was I doing?
Hey, so at one point in time, like obviously you were active duty up until 2019, and then now you've gone IRR, and then you're now back on the reservist side in the Marine Corps.
Yep.
But at what point in time did you start to even consider coaching? Like when was that something that really like solidified, like maybe this is what I do when I get out? Did it happen naturally, or was that kind of like an almost exit strategy as you were potentially getting off your contract in active duty?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So I started lifting the starting strength method like really religiously 2012 or so, as I'm going through, OCS, TBS, all that kind of stuff. So I'm having all these breaks in training. I get to my first unit, I really dive in. And Marines would just ask me, it was just, I could squat a little bit more than them, right? I could deadlift a little bit more than them. And I would talk about it all the time. And so they started asking me, whatever. I'm like, hey, just come lift with me. And I was not even thinking about like learning about coaching. It was just, I'm a butter bar. I want a way to like reach my Marines. I'm stronger than my sergeants. And so that interests them. Hey, sergeants, let's go lift. I have street cred. I have street cred nowhere else, but I have it in the weight room, And so I started doing that. And then, a couple of those guys, now master sergeants and gunnies and stuff, but, with Tomacheski, Toledo, all those guys, hey, sir, we got to get the Marines doing this. Okay, I thought officers weren't allowed to, Tuesday PT. Well, sir, but you can teach them how to do it. And even then, I didn't really put it together that I was like coaching, like form. I just thought, like, hey, we're building a team. That's actually the Marine Corps had me really trained at the time of thinking about building a team, building cohesion, common bond, common suffering. And so that's kind of what I was focused on. And then all of a sudden, it kind of had become in the battalion like, oh, these guys from Tango are strong. And there's like a field meet and we beat everybody. And so then more people started asking me, and not like, oh, Grant, some kind of strength up, but it was like all like team building. It wasn't like, I mean, my numbers, sure, if you don't lift, they're impressive. But if you're a lifter, I'm like very mediocre. I just won't stop doing it. But to the average person, like, oh, he's stronger than me. Like, let me get some help. And so anyway, I started really honing my coaching skill there with kind of about knowing it. And then I switched duty stations from Pendleton to Seal Beach in 2016. The Starting Strength Seminar came to LA. I kind of wanted to validate a hobby. So I went and got their certification and I got listed on their website and my phone started ringing. And so with that said, back up, there was a transition probably at late 14 to 15. I was really like in starting strength. It was kind of taking off. And I realized they had a certification. So I did have to start studying. I didn't know. I got to how to get people to do movement pretty quick. But in terms of explaining anatomy and physiology and understanding some of the science, I definitely had to do some studying. But yeah, so they came to town. I went and got my certification. And then that's kind of where I started coaching out of my garage at General Public. And that's kind of where everything shifted from just like, hey, I'm a Marine, let's make Marines strong, to I don't know that I've written a mission statement for the company, but let's make the world strong. Like now it's like, whoa, a lot of people we got to take care of.
No, that's awesome. That's a great way to do it too, because everybody in your platoon, everybody around is going to start to gravitate to you. It's the people that are closest to you that are going to see a strength of yours, and they're going to want you to kind of utilize that and better the team. And it's
Right.
great that the rest of the NCOs see that and they're like, hey, this is a great opportunity. And you saw it as an opportunity too. Like, hey, this is a way to kind of build some cohesion, but build some buy-in maybe. And like you said, street cred with
Yeah.
the enlisted. This is with my platoon, with my Marines. So, and from there, it just kind of naturally build, because, and then you found a knack for it. I mean, that's, coaching is teaching, coaching is like leadership in a certain way. And it's just about trying to get someone to better themselves. Now with a barbell versus like whatever tactical setting you're going to talk about, whatever your MOS is going to be, whatever your job specialty is going to be. So there's no real big difference. Everybody I've ever talked to that's kind of in a similar boat to us, that's either been like prior service or currently serving, that is a coach, they say the same thing. There's no difference between the two. It's just the modality and what you're trying to teach is different. You still have to teach someone that knows less than you, and you have to build some confidence in them and get to them a point that they didn't think was possible. And that's
Well,
really what it ends up being.
yeah, and I think like a great analogy that I think about a lot of the times is like in the Marine Corps, obviously some people are better at their jobs than others. Some staff NCOs excel more than some NCOs excel more than their peers, whatever. But I always think that every Marine's a rifleman. And that's what I always think about like strength training. Like, hey, it's the basis. Yep, some are going to be better at other things and be more whatever. But like if you increase this common denominator, then like the whole team gets better, the unit gets better. And I think, yeah, the coaching parallels just in like day-to-day work in the Marine Corps. It's also, you're kind of thinking like, hey, what's the most I can get out of these guys, right? I remember I had this gunny, and he would say, Lance Corporal, I won't name him, Lance Corporal, whoever, he'll never be a good Marine, sir, with about a million F bombs in there. All that dude can do is clean a shitter. But damn if he ain't gonna clean a good one, right? That's like what he would always say. And at first I was like, oh, that's really mean. And then I was like, you know what? He's actually like, this guy's stupid, but I'm gonna get like what I can out of him. And so I mean that's kind of coaching in my mind. It's like you're regardless of where you are on the spectrum, you're trying to bring the best out in people.
No, that's a great way to put it too. I think, and strength training is another way to do that as well too. Like you can squeak out more performance and more strength out of someone too, even if their potential maybe isn't that great or they're not as motivated. There's still a way that you can improve in some way with a little bit of elbow grease and some good coaching and leadership along the way. So no, that's cool. I know that kind of transition, like getting certified starting strength, that was pretty close to the time like the strength co like was really developed. Like what happened between getting certified, obviously like your kind of phone blowing up a little bit more? What was like, hey, I want to brick and mortar, I want to start coaching a little bit? Was it just getting pushed out of the garage, or what really started the gym process then?
Yeah, I always kind of say I started the strength co by accident, but it's true. So I was coaching out of the garage. I had like a Calendly link, and I had Saturdays that at this point I was the instructor for a reserve unit. So I'd work on the weekends sometimes, but the weekends I wasn't working. Had a link and you could book, and I think I said I'm 100 an hour or $100 for 90 minutes or something like that. And I would do 4 to 5 sessions on a Saturday. And at first it was awesome. Wow, like people want me to coach them. This is cool. This is my hobby. I love coaching. This is the best thing ever. And then I was like, I haven't had a Saturday off in however many weeks. And I was talking to another buddy of mine that owns a gym, and he said, have you thought about raising your prices? I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, so you do 5 sessions at $100, you make $500, and you're mad. You'd rather not make the $500 and have a Saturday, right? And I was like, yeah, I guess, right? But deep down, that was the answer. He's like, well, what if it was $1,000? I was like, yeah, I think I'd feel different. He's like, double your rates, see what happens. I doubled my rates. I was still booked out. And so I knew there was demand then, but there was actually a guy that came in, wanted to start a gym. And in that point, it kind of come in my back of my mind of maybe I want to do this when I get out. And someone had said that to me. They're like, oh, you'll run a gym. And I remember being like, what? No, I will not run a gym. Like, what do you think I am? Some unintelligent meathead? Like, that's not what I'm going to do with my life. That was my initial thought to it. And then I was like, okay. And then he wanted to open a gym, and he wanted to teach the starting strength method. And it was kind of like, if you can't beat them, join them. Like I got 2 years left on active duty, but like, here's an opportunity. So we started it. We were talking with a lawyer. This is probably I don't know that I've ever told the story live, but we're trying to figure out the name of the gym. So we're going back and forth. I mean, Hercules, Racks. I could go back and look. And we were thinking brand at the time, right? We were thinking like a brand. And I couldn't figure anything out. And I remember emailing my attorney. She's still my attorney, because we needed to get the LLC going. We needed an EIN number to open a bank account or something. I was like, look, we're going to open this company and we're going to strength train people out of it. And we're still working on the name, but like, can we just go ahead and go and then like do a DBA later? And she was like, yeah, no problem. She's like, I'm going to go ahead and register it as the strength company. And then like, when you guys figure out the name, we'll just do your DBA. And I was like, oh my God. And she had written the strength CO period. And I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. And so we opened it, and we opened the gym. And about 5 months into it, maybe 6 months, my partner didn't want to do it anymore. I wanted to go back to the tech world. And he was like, I'm out. Do you want to buy me out? I was like, no. But I did anyway, basically, which was actually like the greatest thing that happened. Like, it actually worked out really well. I mean, partnerships and business is a whole other thing. And I still do business with that guy all the time. But that that's how that happened. So then all of a sudden I had this gym, but I was still active duty, so I couldn't work in it. So I like quickly had to build a staff, and I had to like have a manager. Like, I didn't have time if like it ran out of paper towels or toilet paper. It's like, I'm on base or I'm in the Republic of Georgia for 3 weeks. And so those were some huge business curves for me because I had developed the like customer service one-on-one. Hey, put someone in front of me. I'll make sure they have a good time. But like the management, now that I was the sole proprietor and no one else was there, I had to quickly spin that up. And the guy I actually hired full time is now a first lieutenant in the Marine Corps because he kind of came up through it and watched it. And he was like, oh man, I got to go serve. He's on active duty now, doing great, which is cool, which is like another thing that I'm like, man, outside of like all the stuff the company's done, like that guy worked, and was like, hey, this is cool. I want to go serve. So that's how it opened. It opened in July of 17. So I started in my garage March of 16, July of 17, opened the gym, I think January of 18. I became the only owner. December of 18, I opened up location 2. 19, I was exiting the Marine Corps in December. So I was starting to build it the last few months. You have some more time off. We were ramping up. Finally got that second gym, turning a profit. Things were looking good. I had 2 gyms. We were making some money. I think I had like 12 coaches. And I was like, I'm going to open 10 gyms in Orange County. That was my goal. So I'm going to open 10 gyms. I was looking for a third location. And then it was March of 2020.
Damn. Yeah, that's for anybody that's considering a brick and mortar or coaching at a facility or looking at the management side of owning anything, that's huge advice, just to see all the different pivot points and all the different curveballs that are thrown. And that's not even like day-to-day things. That's just 10,000-foot view, like quarterly. This is what's happened this
right.
quarter, this by like weekly, year, like whatever it is. Like, these are just the snapshots of it too. Like, you're still doing with the day-to-day things all the time. And then I can't imagine like what it was like to try to be a manager and be away from everything. I know you're kind of doing that now as well, like being back on the East Coast and still having one of the facilities open on the West Coast. But hopefully all that stuff has kind of prepared you for it. But that's crazy. How like, were there any points in time when you were actually starting that had the gym open, maybe you're still in active duty or you were kind of exiting before like COVID hit? Were there any points in time where it was just like, hey, this is the breaking point, like I might fold if it gets to this, like I can't do this anymore? And like, how did you kind of address those?
Yeah. There for sure was. So that first gym did pretty well, but what I didn't realize at the time was we were absorbing a lot of the starting strength novelty market, right? It was the reverse of what I was doing in 2008 when a CrossFit opened up. Seriously though, right? Starting strength's like, whoa, there's Ripito people on the West Coast. That must be a unicorn. Let me go give it money. And there's a big difference, as you know, between people that want to come and get coached by you and people that want you to coach them 3 times a week, right? Or even twice a week, right? Those are like 2 different people. The person that wants to come get coached by you will probably pay you anything. But the guy that wants coaching 3 times a week, how far is it from his house? What time are we open? Class starts at 6:15. I got to be at work at 8:15. If it started at 6, I could do it, but you don't have a shower, right? And all these things that the day-to-day client starts to bring are different. So the first gym, though, we did pretty well pretty quickly. And part of that was because I was doing a lot of the work hours, Myself, I was basically on the weekends doing all of the what we call an intro to barbell, the first deal. And so, my close rate was high, but again, my name was in the door. I, just become the only owner. And so there's a lot of stress there. So they have to become members. 2019, second gym, I opened it and it was like, and I'm like, okay, like the phone should start ringing now. And it didn't really ring. And we had done a lot more like site selection on this one than the first one. Well, who's our demographic? 40 to 60, above average income, health problems that will need to get stronger. I mean, we were in the center hub of that demo, and it was just like pulling teeth to get people in there. So I started doing things I had never done. Hey, free learn how to squat clinic, ads in magazines that go to 60-year-old people, all this different stuff. And January to July was like, I can't sleep at night. And oh, by the way, I've been in the Marine Corps 8 years and that ends in November. So I had this cushion, or December. I had this cushion that was nice, but it was all coming to an end. But I was like, I can make this work. And so I stayed out. I mean, I'd go to barber shops, get my hair cut, and tell them about the gym. I mean, I went to a salon to get my hair cut. That's how I found my wife, right? True story. I would go to restaurants, tell them about the gym, passing out business cards, leaving big tips, like come by the gym, come by the gym, come by the gym. And it's just like I couldn't get anyone to go to that thing. And then finally August, it like turned the corner. And I remember December, we had a Christmas party for both gyms, over 100 people. Everyone was happy. Everyone loved the place. Both gyms were profitable. And I was like, I got it. Like I figured this out. So I say to answer your question, early 19, I mean, I had just signed a 2-year lease. So, I mean, I didn't think there was any way out. So in that time, I, just thought I had to make it work. I did make it work. And that's where I got a little bit stupid in 20. Because in 20, I pushed it. I was like, I'll make this work. And so, we closed in March. I think we were supposed to be closed to October. We opened back up in May. This one had this, and there's distancing. We took the windows out of the gym, put barn doors for airflow. We offered clinics outside. I mean, we put air humidifiers, like all this crazy stuff. And the Costa Mesa one, the one that had been there longer, kind of ticked back. It was also a younger demographic, but that one kind of kicked back, and that other one just would not kick back. And I was like, I've been here before. I'll make this work. I'll make this work. Tried new things. I mean, we'd always done paid ads, cranked Yelp spending, did all this stuff. And then I just remember keep looking at the books on that place and being like, this is just a math problem. And I remember I would always think about what I honestly, and this is a pride, selfish thing. I would always think about the sign coming down. And I was like, I don't want the sign to come down. Not because what the sign cost, but because I had an idea. I put that up there and I failed. Bring the sign down, it's closed. And that's what I was avoiding. And then I realized if I close this gym, the however many members that we have, 90% of them will just add a 20-minute commute and go to the other gym. That one will become twice as profitable. And I won't have this headache. And so I called my landlord and he was asking me, I had 7 months left. And I was like, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. He's like, I was going to call you. The place next door wants to expand. He's like, are you about to tell me you want out? I was like, yeah. He's like, you can be out by the end of this month. It was August 15th of 21. I was like, I'll be out tomorrow. And so yeah. So, I mean, not only did I find the breaking point, but I had to do it. And that was some of those 2 years ago now. That was some of the tough, weirdest business feelings I've experienced in terms, I mean, because I've definitely done some things with risk and money and amounts, but I open this place, I'll make this work. This is what I do. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. And you can blame it on whatever you want, right? You can say, hey, if COVID never happened, it doesn't matter. From a business perspective, at some point you just have to look at the numbers and be like, this does not add up. And it doesn't look like it's going to add up anytime soon. And I have an out, let me take it.
Yeah, that's a tough decision to make, especially when to your point, your name's on the sign, it's your baby, it's something you created. and you're attached to it and you put so much like blood, sweat, tears like into it, it's hard to feel like it's just a failure. But not knowing and not having a business myself, like I don't know what that feeling is, but I can imagine I would be in the same mindset as well. But I would like to think that if I like sat back and thought of it, I was like, most people don't even start it. Most people don't even get
Right.
any of this off the ground. So like I don't really want to know if I want to call it a failure. If I've got so far, I just realized like maybe I just didn't make the right steps along the way, or something unfortunate like COVID does happen too. I wouldn't chalk it up. You can't chalk the whole thing up as a failure too, because it is your second location and you've got so many other things too that are profitable. It's so hard. And it's interesting to kind of hear what you say. Like they're, they sound like they're two pretty identical places. They're still run by the same people. They're similar coaches with the same mindset. They're just in two
Sure.
different areas. And
12
one
miles apart.
and one's doing really well and one is kind of like teetering.
But I think that what the lesson there was that this particular thing, failed from a monetary standpoint, but from a business perspective, I learned that like, oh, you can build a multifaceted business, decide to try something over here. And now I kind of think about it completely different. Like whether it's we want to launch new products or whatever, I'll think like that gym was called Villa Park. Oh, like I tried that. One, it was worth it because it's where I found my wife. But two, like what a great learning experience to also say, hey, I'm going to shut that down. This gym's revenue did go way up. And now we like leverage that, and realizing that, you can go out and do things and, sure, the first idea, right? If the first one had gone up, that's a different thing. But like you said, it's a second location. It's an extension of something that you're building, and an extension can, not make it, and you can still go back onto what you have.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely is. It's had its positives out of it, and it's a good thing you've been able to pull those. And it's a huge learning experience. And luckily you were able to take a little bit of that was still successful there, even if the business in whole was not on the books doing well, you were able to drive that back into the main location. So that's great. And
Sure.
there's a lot of good things that came from it. I know I want to touch on too a little bit of, obviously, like we talked about before we got recording, like there's just so many things that like both of us kind of do either at the same time or have done that make like our resumes kind of unique. Like you're on the military side, like now manufacturing plates with the Strenco and a lot of other gym equipment. You have the gyms, like you have employers that work for you. You've been in the military, you're still in the military in some aspect. There's a lot of stuff going on, and like I want to touch about the balance, but before we even get that, like I want to touch on the next piece that you kind of added into it, which was like manufacturing like strength equipment and everything. And you did
Yeah.
it. You did. I know, when was the inception of it? Because you picked a real funny time to do it, and actually like launch everything. But what made you like spark wanting to do that and then add that to like the gym?
Yeah, I'm looking for MCDP1 warfighting. It looks like I have like all six here. I think it must be in the living room, but I'll answer a little bit of this at the same time. Um, in short, so in terms of like the balance, like what you learn from the military that changes over. In short, I had no plans on making equipment. I had plans on making 10 gyms in Orange County. When they both closed, my very first thought, and I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail. We did that interview with Coop at Garage Gym Reviews. If people want to like the real in-depth story, they can go over there and find it. But my initial business thought was, how do I keep the 120 people that are on recurring memberships paying me? I thought I'll put gyms in their house. That was just a business plan. So I just started we started mapping people out where they live, like literally, like it reminded me of like artillery work. Where's this unit? Where's that unit? What unit's near that? Who's the next adjacent? I was like, okay, if I put a gym at Nick's house, then Dave, Ann, John, Christina, and Mike can all use that same one. So like we'll do that. And literally we deployed them. So we had 8 racks in each gym, so 16 total, and 120 people. So you're like out of crap real quick. So it's like, hey, Nick, you get a barbell and 245s. Hey, Rachel, you get the curl bar, a resistance band, and 2 5s. And we have this like janky spreadsheet. We're trying to track all this stuff out. Equipment's to the winds. And so I just thought I need more equipment. So the very first thing I did was I started calling around to wholesale warehouses. And like everyone knows there was equipment rush in 2020, but I'm talking we closed March 16th. By March 20th, I had probably spent over $25,000 on buying out fitness warehouses. Kettlebells, dumbbells, what do you have? 6 cents a pound? I'll take all of it. It's 8,000 pounds. I'll take all of it. Just draining my bank account. Some of these people wanting cash only, and my gyms are empty, and we're just putting it in the gyms. So the moment that I decided to make things was the second business idea I had was LA Times did an article on us, and everyone wanted to come get equipment. So I said, we'll make rental packages. My brother works from Home Depot, and I remember when he manages their online stuff, he's done a bunch of stuff for them. But I remember he talked about their tool rental and like how tool rental is the biggest business. Like that Sawzall pays for itself something like 80 times over, And so I was like, I'll rent these things out. So we made sets. Everything I could buy, we used equipment too. It was amazing. And we rented these things out. And we'd offer delivery because everyone was afraid to go anywhere. And we would go to LA, Malibu. And man, I wish we could go back and like have some better software because we definitely lost some payments. We definitely had some unclaimed stuff. But all in all, it worked out really well for us. We had all these rentals going out. And then it was like, there's nothing left. And I remember the turning point was when I remember someone being on the website. We had installed a chat function. We had never had like a chat function before. And they were like, hey, why is it pick up in LA? Deliver to me in Garden City, New York. And I just remember like writing, like, we don't ship. Like, I'll pay anything. I was like, we need, like, we got to find more products. Like, we got to find more products. And I started calling foundries. And again, there's a long version of this. Short story, found a foundry, connected, threw everything I had down on it, and made the plates. So we started talking to the foundries, I think the first week in May. In July on Twitter, I posted a tweet of just an image of a drawing. It said, a lot of people say they want made in USA, but who would actually buy it? And the thread like blew up. So I put some kind of thing in there to capture emails. I think I had like 100 emails. And then it looked like maybe September we'd have product. In the first week of August, I was broke. It was all there. Everything was supposed to be done faster, but it was COVID and this took it. And I was like, oh, I got to take pre-orders. So with that one image, it was like, I didn't know how shipping worked. I didn't know how FedEx worked. I didn't know that there were zones. I didn't know anything. And we went live. And man, it was great. I mean, it was great right off the bat. And I couldn't believe it. And I mean, we didn't even have the product in hand yet. And we were literally selling off an image, but I didn't like, I was like, I can't float anything anymore. And so that's how I transitioned to that. And yeah, it was wild.
That's crazy to get to like that point. I was gonna say with the gyms to get to the edge, like I feel like with the equipment, he was even more so. Like you've already you bet on yourself so much to actually get to that point, and you found a great idea, and you kind of bet everything on trying to reinvent it in a different way to actually ship across the country.
Well, back to the time that I meant, the reason I was reaching for that book, Marine Corps, MCDP 1 Warfighting, they teach you the brand new lieutenant, speed and tempo. And so obviously everyone wanted to get a bunch of equipment, but containers were backlogged. I was doing a bunch of studying on containers because I was like, I don't want to make a bunch of equipment and then China finally get their stuff back over here and I'm left holding these bag of USA plates and everyone's buying things half off. I was like really big into studying logistics. But I was like, I have to be first. Like I have to be first. We have to be like the quickest. We have to like maintain tempo. And So there's a competitor that a lot of people have heard of out of Ohio, sell a lot of stuff at CrossFit. And a little bit after we had started, their owner posted a prototype that they were making a USA made plate. And I just remember being like, oh. And then I just thought, I got to beat him. Like we got to beat him to market. And, but it was my first time doing all this, right? But we did by about 3 weeks. And for our whole product line, which was really big. And then we beat them. They only released big plates at first. So we had the market on tins and down for a year. Like that's how much we beat them by. And so at that point, we got in the door. We got the garage gym reviews. We got the basement Brandons. You know, we got product reviews. So now people landing on their site and it's not Grant, some pandemic mustache salesman. It's, oh, this is a real business. And yeah.
No, I mean, it's swift, violent action. That's what you need.
Yeah, that's right.
And knowing logistics and how it works, you can figure out the rest of the business and how like plates actually get sent to you, and you can figure out all the shipping, zip codes, and all that stuff as it comes. But hey, pre-orders come in, and you got a product in the works. So no, that's awesome. I know, because yeah, you guys worked on all the micro plates and everything. Obviously, like that starting strength philosophy and having everything. And to be honest with you, I don't really like the deep dish at all.
Yeah.
So I like what you guys put together, because those are the old school plates that everybody wants. I mean,
yeah.
I know in my garage I have just makeshift stuff, but I've been collecting it forever. I've got like old Ivancos, I've got old standards, I've got everything. Yeah, I've got everything you could possibly think of, just because I've been like collecting them over the course of time. But those like feel like classics. They feel like the old classics too. And now you have everything in abundance too, which is great. And then to be able to capitalize that and offer it to the people that are trying to train in that time, and then now hopefully are still continuing to do that. And I know you've been able to do that a little bit more. Can you touch on too a little bit of like, how did that tie into the live coaching that you also do? Because now you're not in the gym so much on the West Coast, even though like it's still yours. But how does like live coaching and now kind of being able to deliver coaching to people, also be able to deliver equipment and plates to people, was that just a natural kind of transition? And do they kind of complement each other now in like in the business model?
Yeah. So I think first, like, having a team, back to what we talked about earlier, is so important, because so when we like went to give away the equipment, I kind of spearheaded it. And then Mike, who's now a Marine, I was like, you run this. And then Connor, who was a coach in the gym, I was like, hey man, now that they all have equipment in their houses, you coach them online. Same class schedule. People want like something regular. Everything in their life's been turned upside down. Coach them online. So he started the Zoom coaching. I wasn't doing any of that. I had switched to plates. So you got, they do that, and then the gym's open back up. I'm in the gym a little bit, and these different people started developing stuff. And then as everything opened up and the world got normal, we started looking at the business, and I was like, okay, let's close this gym, leave this gym open. You're a general manager. You're going to run this. And I make it sound like it's all clean now. A lot of it was, a bunch of knees and elbows everywhere, boxing things up, and, a mess. But we got the online coaching going and realized, man, it's a really different kind of person that wants online coaching. Like I said before, the guy that walks into your gym, he wants it to be close. He wants it to fit a schedule perfectly. He wants the class to be a certain length. He wants there to be a sauna. He wants there to be a spa. He wants all these things. The guy that goes through the trouble to order a squat rack, a barbell, a bench, however many plates, collars, convince his wife to allow him to put in his garage, floor matting, install the whole thing, read on the internet, read blogs, start lifting, and still says, you know what? I need some help. That's the guy you want to talk to, because that guy is already invested and he already cares a lot. He's already sold on the thing. And so I think where we grew that business at first is we took the same approach we took in the gym, like literally teach these people how to squat. But if you came in some of my live classes now, we program everybody, and of course, like we give form corrections, but it's more like a community and a team. It's like, hey, this is the 6:30 a.m. crowd. It's 8 to 10 guys and gals, similar backgrounds, similar lifestyles, similar, everyone's kind of similar area in life, and they train together. Everyone logs in on Zoom just like this. We got some cool technology. We play music for people. We'll highlight big lifts, and it's just like, of course they want the programming, all that stuff, but they want that. And then how it all complements each other is someone's a gym member now. What's the thing? If you're a good coach, you teach someone to lift in 6 months, period. If you're a good coach, at the end of 6 months, they know how to lift. They know how to manage injuries. They know how to get around stuff. So they want to go to their garage. What do they want? They want the stuff they've been training with. So what do? They buy plates. So they go to the garage and start training around. Hey, you know what? I don't need you to talk to me every set, but could you just give me my workouts? So then you sell them an online thing. So now it all kind of complements, and even with the gym we've started here in Greenville, very small footprint inside a rock climbing gym. But the model there is almost even different. It's, hey, come into this clinic for 4 to 5 weeks, learn how to lift. And then, hey, these are some different things online. You want full immersion, you still see Grant or, whoever 3 times a week for an hour, you have this option. You just need some help with programming, you have this option. Oh, you're tired of driving here? Here's what we can do to help you outfit your home gym. So that's kind of how they kind of come together now.
No, that's smart. It's you kind of get them on the hook and show them, kind of give them a teaser, and then based off their feedback and what they give you, and like you're going to get some that give you a grocery list of excuses of what they want, and you kind of know, okay, well, maybe this isn't for you, or maybe this other avenue would fit you better. And you're not too worried about like trying to catch those. You're looking for the ones that are a little bit more invested, and even the ones that maybe aren't as invested as much, but they want to offer something. You can give them more options, and it might be, okay, well, they're educated enough, they've coached up enough, they can train on their own. They just want programming, they want more feedback, they want to bring a family member, they want to bring a friend and train together. They want the community.
That happens all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to see all the different places that you've actually been able to change, like within the business, within like starting more parts of the business as well. So what are you kind of next? I know you just talked about like the Greenville gym opening up and working with that. Are there any big projects or any like visions? Is it 10 gyms in Greenville now? Is that the goal?
No, I definitely think I probably have PTSD from a bunch of gyms. But I love coaching, right? And I love coaching in person. And I love, for me, it's a lot of fun watching someone go to try to pick something up. They say you can't. You yell them a little bit, but you actually convince them, right? And it's not necessarily the yelling, but it seems like a lot of time it is. And they do it, right? And that's a cool feeling. It's the reason I fell in love with strength training in general, because it actually is life changing, right? And again, I always drove back. Young Marines come in, they're 18 years old, they're 160 pounds. You make them 185 pounds with a 405 deadlift. That Lance Corporal walks around different. That kid thinks about himself different. And so that's the same thing we saw in the gym. And, we always complain about the client wants this, and the client's hard, but at the end of the day, the clients were great, right? And you saw their lives change. Then bring their wives in who had osteoporosis, or they're bringing their husbands in who hadn't lifted or worked out in years. So all that's fun, but I don't think I'll leave the starting strength gyms up to building these things all over the country. We'll put our plates in them. But yeah, that's not the plan by any means. The coaching still growing. Still scaling that, adding new coaches all the time. This Greenville thing seems to be growing, which is a lot of fun. We are looking to add some more products. We'll stick with USA made on everything, but we're looking into bumpers that we could manufacture. Probably the closest on that. Not a huge bumper fan in general, but there's obviously a need in different spaces. And sometimes if you're outfitting a big college or something, people want to go and they want one invoice that hits them, so there's a place there. playing around with some calibrated stuff. I haven't quite cracked the nut on that. But looking at that, but yeah, to not sound exciting, but no, there's nothing where I'm like, this is next. But if you look back at my business, it wasn't until something exploded that I was like, oh, that's next. So, yeah, but yeah, I think grow the coaching. I still think we have a lot more to grow in just the cast iron plate business, period. Like there's a lot more homes that get in, a lot more gyms, a lot more military bases, a lot more colleges, a lot more universities. I remember walking to the foundry, the first foundry tour, and it was our first run of plates, So I'm up in there, Wisconsin. It's just crazy. You're watching these things drop down, and the plates are flying by, and boom, 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 and whatever, 1,045s go down this conveyor, and it's this huge place. You're walking around. There's fire overhead, and buckets, whatever. And we go to the shakeout line to wait for the 45s to come. We're like, all right, they're going to come right after these cast iron pans. And we're sitting down there at the end of the thing, and 12 feet wide, cast iron pans 6 high, 12 feet wide, right? And just falling into crates, getting palleted, forklift away for 10 minutes. I'm talking thousands and thousands of cast iron pans, 12 inches. Oh, here come 14 inches. And I thought, I own my grandmother's cast iron pan. Like literally I have 3 now, but like I have my grandmother's. This thing is indestructible and lasts forever. And I just leaned over to my rep and I said, how many of these things do you do? He's like, I can't tell you, but you wouldn't believe it. And I just remember at that moment thinking, oh, we got a lot more plates to sell. Like we got a lot more. Like if we can sell that many cast iron pans, of course, everyone wants to eat fried eggs more than they want to lift weights. But you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I only have like 2 cast iron.
Right.
I have probably 30, 45s. I have more 100-pound plates than I do have cast iron pans. But I guess you're averaging everybody in the country that most people don't have as many plates in their garage as I do.
Yeah.
Versus plates. But no, that's awesome. I watched the tour and everything, and you guys going through the foundry and kind of seeing the inception of it all, and it's awesome to kind of see that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing too. Like obviously, like your service and being like made in the USA, like that's a stamp that you put on it, and you're proud with the company to hold to that. And I think that's a huge thing. And I think COVID was a precursor to a lot of stuff that it's important that like businesses and factories and stuff is back here homegrown, and it's awesome to see it. And it's no small feat, because the easy avenue, the shortcut and everything is just to outsource it and get whatever's cheap and push it to somewhere else outside the country. But to keep it like in-house, domestic, and keep it homegrown, that's awesome. And I think that's great to kind of see it grow and see your vision for it. And then just let it like spider web out and see what grabs first. Because inevitably something's going to catch your attention, or maybe like just how the culture is shifting into something. You're just going to be able to capitalize it on an idea, just like the plates, the same way. It's like, hey, this is the big thing. This is the time. You got to be swift, violent, and attack it right now.
Yeah.
No, that's great. Hey, so kind of touching on the training aspect of it, how has your training shifted a little bit now, not being active duty, like still involved in the military, not quite as much, but now you can you maybe don't have to run 3 miles every Monday, and shake the legs out from the weekend over at the Purple Church or anywhere. How's that shifted for you at all? Or are you kind of seeing maybe like getting older in the game, or maybe not powerlifting quite as much on the platform? Has that shifted for you?
Yeah, I was doing 1 to 2 competitions a year from 2012 to 2018. I was definitely doing that a lot. I think I did one in October of 19 was the last one I did. So that's kind of been out, but in general, no, my training stayed really the same. I think what's changed a little bit though is mindset. Like it has to be hard, it has to be heavy, but also realizing like I'm not. I remember chasing 500-pound squat for a long time, and I finally hit it. And my all-time best now is 515. I, I don't want to say I'm not going for 600, but I'm not really going for 600, right? I'm lifting hard and I'm lifting heavy. And I tried for 520 recently and I failed it, right? So like I'm still pushing it because I think that's important in training, but it's definitely changed my mindset. I tell people all the time, I always make fun of the 40 to 50-year-old male. Probably offend a bunch of people, but they always call you and tell you about how great they were and everything that's wrong with them now. And like in terms of my coaching background, the majority of people I've worked with are like 50 plus. So I'm like, man, if you're 42, you're not old. Like I don't see 44 as old. I'm programming you that almost the same as I'm actually programming exactly the same as I'm programming a 20-year-old until I find that your body tells me different, and then we'll make adjustments. But so I don't like to like play the old card, but at the same time, I don't 52 weeks of the year. I'm training 3 days a week. I don't miss, but I'm not balls to the wall, right? I'm definitely cycling out of like, hey, I'm going to do some lighter stuff for a little while, or whatever. Um, so yeah, training's changed, but at the same time, I mean, I would say like training continues, right? It's business, it's Marine Corps. It's like you have to keep going, and the reason you're successful in things is because you show up and you do it. And it sounds so cliche, but I look at my coach, the people I've coached over the years, and that guy was strong. Oh yeah, that guy never missed. Right? He missed lifts, but he never missed. Like he came to the gym. I feel like crap today. Okay, lift anyway. Make this adjustment. And but yeah, I mean, I still training hard. I still got goals. I do still want to deadlift 600. That's my big training goal. I'd actually say I'm running a little bit more the last 6 months since I moved to Greenville. It's a fun place to run. Now that the Marine Corps is not forcing it down my throat, kind of been enjoying it a little bit. I'm a runner by no means. I think I ran this year 23 like flat 3 miles. So like I'm not fast, but yeah, I'll close this question. My philosophy for like the general person that could be military or whatever, strength train 3 times a week, one hit session, and then like one steady state 30 to 60 minutes. And then in that order. So if you have to ditch something, ditch the 30 to 60-minute one. Second thing you ditch is the hit. And then you can get down to 2 days of strength training if life's really hit the fan. That's kind of what I think is like how to keep going.
No, that's good advice for anybody too. That's like trying to get going. It's not super complicated, but you have to keep it consistent. I think a lot of people, it takes a lot to get started. Is this to your point too? Some of those people that are looking to find the just like perfect mold and fit into going to the gym. Well, if it was at 6 o'clock, I could do it. I won't have enough time to shower. I'm going to be stuck in traffic. Like they find so many excuses,
right?
When really you could just put your head down, and like even doing a little bit is better than doing nothing at all.
Yeah.
And
People do what they want to do, right? And so that's like if you pitch them, this is what you need to do. Hey, I mean, I say those are the 5 things I want people to do. I never start someone with that. I always say they come in, all right, I'm overweight. I want to blah, 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 all these goals. I say, okay, step one, you bring your butt through that door twice a week for 2 weeks. Then we'll talk about step 2. That's it. Come through that door twice a week for 2 weeks, and then you build.
No, it's smart because you gradually kind of build them into it. And at the same time, one, selfishly, it does, you don't waste a lot of effort on them trying to track them down, because I tell my college athletes all the time, it's like if I want you to be more successful than you want yourself to be successful, like this is never going to work. If I have to, you're a Division I athlete, if I have to force you to come into the weight room, like I get it if you don't like it, but if you don't realize that like everybody else in the country is doing this and you want to be successful and you're not going to do it, like talent alone is not going to get you this. And I don't get to play on the field. If I want it more than you, this is going to be a terrible scenario. So by kind of easing them into it and building some confidence, like with small sessions like that, especially when it's a paid client or someone that kind of wants to do it, but they're coming from like the couch. They're coming from the couch, and then like the barbell is scary. and they have to
Sure.
pay for it too. Like there's so many nuances that end up coming into it that like you want to ease them into it. You know the benefit of it, but versus them sitting on the couch and you as the coach and like you're talking about trying to get a 600-pound squat or deadlift and they don't even know if they could pick up the bar. That's intimidating to a lot of them.
Right.
So I think that's great to like kind of build them into it and develop a goal. I'll tell all my friends and family too, like just go to the gym like 3 days a week for 4 weeks, and then I'll give you a program because I'm also not giving
Yeah.
I'm not giving it to you for free because I don't
Oh, yeah,
believe,
exactly.
I don't believe you're going to do it either.
Hey, to every person out there that wants to coach or open a gym, if you actually want to do that, don't do anything for free ever again starting today. Period. Period.
No, that's perfect. That's perfect. Hey, so you're in your opinion too, I guess when it comes to training some of the athletes, some of the clients and stuff you have from training your Marines and everything, is is there any difference that you see which makes someone a successful Marine versus a successful athlete, successful strength lifter? Are there a lot of nuances to those, or are there a lot of similarities as well?
Yeah, I mean, the nuances aren't what's successful, but in my mind, progress and those kind of things, I think it's very similar. It's I didn't realize, I'm just blessed maybe the way I was raised. The Citadel taught me a bunch of stuff, then being in the Marine Corps. I didn't realize the average person does not want to, as we say in the Corps, embrace the suck. I always kind of assumed if it's harder, it must be better for me. I don't know, maybe that's some Italian Broggi stuff in there, but I was like, it's harder. It's got to be better for me. But most people don't want that. And so I think a successful Marine, successful strength training, successful athlete is they understand like that, hey, this like place of discomfort, this thing that I don't really want to do, or this thing that like scares me or whatever, if I do it, I'll be better. And I might make mistakes and I might fail. You're obviously far beyond the average age of the second lieutenant, but it's like, what do they tell the young lieutenant? Hey, it doesn't matter what decision you make, just make one. And so in lifting, it's like, hey, lifting or being a Marine or a squad leader or whatever the case is, it's like, hey, I like embrace this thing that you don't want to do, make a decision, and that decision might be, I mean, sometimes I think, man, I'm talking about weightlifting like it's this like life changing, huge thing. It's literally squatting and deadlifting. At the same time, the guy that walks in and does his squats 3 times a week and deadlifts, like, you know, like he's a different kind of person. And yeah, I look back at the members of my gym, open in 2017. Those people that are either still there, stayed there until 2020 or whatever, are the people I still talk to. Those clients, not because they were good for business, but because we're so like minded, right? It's like you're on the same vein in terms of what you think about. But yeah,
No, that's a great way to put it too. Like you guys are like-minded. You found commonality with training and the barbell. And yeah, I see it in in my unit. I've seen it in other units, and I've seen it in coaching and everything too from my athletes. There's a lot of people that will say they want to do something hard, but when push comes to shove, like they fold under it. And
yeah,
finding the discomfort and realizing that in that adversity is like when you're really going to shape yourself and find out who you truly are. Like you find that in small ways when you're training and when you're under the barbell, like you're lifting. And it's not comparable to like war. It's not comparable to like big games. It's maybe, or like trying to close a big deal, but in ways there is like
sure,
it's life or death. Some people treat it as a hobby. Some people treat it as they're a life skill, that character, like what defines them. So it's really how much you invest in it, but there's a lot that you can pull from that, and there's a lot that's transferable. And I'd agree too. Like my best friends are ones that train. Obviously, like I'm in the profession, but like there's character traits that I think that are consistent with people that are consistent with training that are ones I want to hang out with. They're people
Sure.
that are similar, they're like-minded, and they're a different type of person.
Yeah.
It's hard to put your finger on it sometime, but I know what you mean with it. When it comes to like all the training that you did have in the beginning, like leading up to coaching, was there anything like really truly about the military that kind of helped shaped a little bit of your training philosophy, or like maybe life skills, communication, even like from your time at the Citadel as well? Like, was there anything really big that you think helped you the most when it comes to either life in general, business ownership, or coaching, that like you can really attribute to your time and like your current time still in the Marine Corps?
Yeah. I don't know if I could say there was like a specific event like this thing happened, but I do think in general, what we touched on a little bit is just like dealing with adversity and discomfort, right? Like you show up as a 17, 18-year-old at the Citadel in August in Charleston, South Carolina, 100% humidity and a wool suit, and you're getting yelled at by a guy who's 19. Well, this isn't very fun. Or the Marine Corps. I would always tell Marines, and when it was training or things were bad, I'd always pull up stories, or not stories, but logs of things that were happening right now, or buddies I had known that had deployed and things had happened. I mean, like, hey, like, you think this is bad? Like, you wearing the uniform. I'd always say this when guys come down in their uniform look like crap. Like, you don't wear that uniform for you. You wear that uniform for the people that work before you. But I think, yeah, I think just like dealing with adversity and discomfort probably shaped a lot of my coaching. And then I think too, watching other leaders, in the Marine Corps, like I touched on a little bit before, but pulling the best out of people, because you're you care for every single Marine. It doesn't matter if they're a performer or not. You care for every single one of them, and so I think you know pulling pulling what you can out of them is the same thing in coaching. In the gym, sometimes you got a high maintenance client, but you actually do still care for them, if you're actually, passionate about coaching. And so kind of maybe another thing is like seeing the big picture, but yeah, I think in business, like just business, it would be adversity and like adapting and like making things work. I think in coaching, it would be like, seeing the best in people sounds kind of cheesy, but like saying like, hey, what can we get out of this person? And then also like when people get better, I guess that's the last thing. It's like sometimes someone comes in and you're coaching them, like, man, this guy. And 3 months later, you're like, I kind of like this guy. And like, I didn't make him better, but that barbell did. And I kind of like helped him get to that. And now he's like, kind of thinks about life a little bit differently, or stuff like that. But yeah, that's my best attempt at that one.
No, that's great. I think you hit it the nail on the head. I think one way also to kind of like rephrase it is like you see as a coach, and like even from the military, like when you're looking at some of your subordinates and like some of your enlisted, it's you see them for kind of who they could be versus just who they currently are at that moment. And your
Yeah.
job is to kind of help facilitate that and get them to the point, because you see the potential in them, and it's just about doing the work, and it's about building and instilling confidence in them so they can reach that potential a little bit more. And you like the barbell, like leadership, and just helping them along that path, like hopefully they start to realize it a little bit more, and they shape themselves into just a better person, a better lifter, a better athlete, whatever their avenue their of approach they're trying to take to improve on is. But no, that's a great way to put it. So that's awesome. Hey, so Grant, like any good show, any good game, we end it with a finisher. So I got 4 quarters, 4 questions, and maybe overtime at the end. So you can
Okay.
go rapid fire, or you could take your time on any of them. But you ready?
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first one I got for you: biggest influence in strength and conditioning, and favorite athlete growing up.
I'm gonna say Mark Ripito and definitely Tom Brady.
Okay. So when you're not coaching and training, anything outside of the weight room walls, like business and stuff, what are some of your hobbies that have nothing to do with the barbell?
I really like hunting. My time in California has taken me out of that, but now that I'm back on the East Coast, I'm looking forward to this deer season. Um, and I like hiking. I think I avoided that for a long time in the Marine Corps, but now it's not mandatory. I really enjoy doing that. Yeah, those two things probably.
Everything's more fun when it's not mandatory, usually.
That's right. That's right. Mando fun.
Hey, so if you weren't coaching, what do you think you would be doing right now as a job?
Some type of logistics. I think one of the things, love coaching, love barbell training, but one of the things I enjoy about the other side of this business, or I've enjoyed it as an artillery officer, is giving complex problems. These things have to go to this place, thinking through real things. Someone's gonna have to lift this, put it on a truck, some item, whatever. I don't know what they call that these days, supply chain logistics, something like that. I definitely be doing that or selling cars, probably one of those two things.
All right. Hey, so if you're setting up an ideal training day for yourself, what is the best music? Like what's playing in the speakers and what is your post-training meal look like?
Waylon Jennings, Outlaw Radio, for sure. Because, you love it, good storytelling, but nothing's too hype. But every now and then a song comes on that gets you going. But yeah, Outlaw Country, Waylon Jennings, for sure. I have a pretty boring diet. I mean, I'd like to say pizza, but I don't actually eat that. After I train, I got to answer. Let me think. What did I have today when I finished training? It's smoked turkey and hash and rice. We'll go with that.
Okay. Hey, so last one I got for you for overtime. What is your favorite way to kind of continue to sharpen the sword? Like resources, whether it be like on the military side, business side, coaching side, like how do you where do you go and what do you look for when it comes to uh, kind of gaining more knowledge?
Yeah, that's actually great. So, on the Marine side, especially as a reservist, one of the things I do and I encourage my Marines to do is just log into the Marines.mil account every day, read the MAR admins, see what the commandant cares about, and see what you should be caring about. And for officers, stuff like check your email just to keep your mind going, so it's not like this power switch off every month that you turn on again. But I always think, hey, whatever the commandant's thinking about, I probably need to at least be aware of. And so, I think that's a big one, along with just general reading. But again, he's got a reading list, and there's always books coming out and stuff like that. Business wise, podcasts. I listen to the guy Roz, How I Built This, every week. I did even before I started this. I've loved that podcast for a long time, and you learn so much. The Burt's Beeswax one still blows my mind. The laundress one, the two girls that financed their whole company on credit cards, it was crazy. Yeah, that's a great one. And there's a lot of good business ones. I also like to read. Like I mentioned, my brother's a president at Home Depot. There's a lot of good books on Home Depot, and it's a really successful company. So I know a lot about them. But books and podcasts, really for business. I've thought about going to school. I got one brother that's a Harvard law guy. One brother's a Harvard business guy. The Harvard business guy laughed at me when I brought up doing an MBA. He's like, "What are you talking about? You're doing it." Not that I would go to Harvard by any means, but I just mean in general. So yeah, that's where I go for that. And then for training, there's so much good stuff being put out there. One of the ways that I like to challenge myself is just by posting, my thoughts a lot on Twitter, and then seeing when people challenge you, right? And it kind of makes you think about things, or it either solidifies a point, or hey, I still think I'm right about that, but maybe I don't know that at the level I need to. So that's kind of fun. Again, a lot of podcasts. I like the guys over at Mastonomics, which is a really like funny, silly podcast, but they bring a lot of guests on that are like super intelligent on training. So I really enjoy theirs. The starting strength one is great when they're talking about training. And yeah, I don't know that I pick up a lot of like training books these days. I mean, I have a lot back on that shelf and another one's in the house, but I don't know that I can't think of the last like current book that I bought, outside of some health stuff. I bought Peter Attia's like longevity book. I think in coaching, what I try to keep my pulse on is what do my clients care about. And so like, they'll be like, hey, here's a big trend on fasting. Here's a big trend on, not drinking coffee for 4 hours after you wake up. Or here's a big trend on like, you're never allowed to do this or that. And so even if it's stuff that I don't like or agree with, part of coaching is hearing people where they're at. And so saying like, okay, I'm trying to get this person the next step. Why did this, hey, I'm going to wake up and not drink coffee for 3 hours, like thing appeal to them? So digging into that and then figuring out. But yeah, I mean, there's information everywhere now. And so it's kind of crazy. But it's so readily available. But yeah, those are kind of, anyway, I know over time I went long. All the other ones I rapid fire.
No, that's what overtime's for anyway. So
yeah, that's right.
No, it's perfect. No, you gave me some good ideas, and I'll have to check out some of those too. But that's a good point too with the clients, because I mean I do the same thing with the athletes. Like they'll come and talk to me about these crazy new supplements or something that I need to, like, whoa, I've not heard of this. Like I remember them coming to me about turkesterone or something. I was like, the turkey? Like, what are you talking about? And the next day I had to go, like that night when I got home, I was looking up all these different things. I'm like, this really is like a estrogen blocking turkey testosterone booster. I was like, what is this? But to their point, like you're a little bit more relatable. You figure out what the clients are doing, and you can build some buy-in and have conversations with them a little bit more. So I mean, that's part of the reason for some of the knowledge base and like continuing education stuff too, is be able to give your clients the best and improve yourself at the same time. So great things. I'm gonna definitely have to check those out. So hey, for anybody that has any questions for you, like you said, you were on Twitter, you post some stuff on there. I know you got the YouTube and everything going. We'll link everything below, but where can they follow you and follow up with the Strength Co., purchase some of the equipment, plates, look at some of the coaching and everything?
Yeah, so we kind of got all that in one place for the most part, the strength.co, the strength.co. You can obviously shop the store there. You can click the coaching page, the media page. We put new YouTube videos up 3 times a week. The Sunday one usually accompanies with the blog, what I'm thinking about. My cell phone number's on the site. If you text me a form check, I'll never answer it. If you post a form check publicly on Twitter, I'll absolutely respond to it. I don't do DMs, but I will do public stuff. That way everyone can learn. That's kind of my rule with that stuff. I'm pretty active on Twitter if you talk to me there. We're on Instagram. Braden runs our TikTok. But like if you wanted to talk to Grant in 5 minutes, if you tweeted at me, I'd probably get back to you within an hour. But yeah, the strength.co, everyone's there. Everything's there, how to get everywhere. Our YouTube channel's growing. We're almost at 10,000 subscribers. So feel free to like click the support button on the site and say, hey, you don't have a video on this. We do videos all the time because of that reason. So we're always looking for ideas and, curious what people are looking for. So those are the spots.
Awesome. Hey, well, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. It's been great to chat on a lot of stuff. I know, like I said, it was selfish of me because there's so many things that we have in common, and there's so many questions I had to ask for you. I wanted to make sure I still get you out on time, but I appreciate you coming on today and sharing with us. And it's been great talking to you, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
That's it for this episode of The Strength Game. Thank you again to this week's guest and to our sponsors. Be sure to connect and keep up with our guests at the links in the description below. Remember to subscribe to us on Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast provider to stay up to date on all future episodes. Also, check us out on YouTube and CoachO'Brien.com, where you can find all the video versions of these episodes, as well as show notes, episode schedule, and much more. Comments, ratings, and reviews are always welcome and appreciated. Thanks again for tuning in, and be sure to join us next week for another great episode of The Strength Game.